Long section plotting using chain parameters. In this video I'm going to show you how you can plot multiple road centerlines just using one generic plot parameter file. So let's start off with having a look what I've got here. So I've got some road centerlines here on the left hand side, and on the right hand side I've got a section view, and I've profiled the long section for road CO1 here. So the first thing I'm going to do, go into the section view here and go to the plot, long plot. And I've previously got a PPF file here for this road, so I'll go into plot parameter file, select the one for road CO1 and just go to read. So you can see here this plot parameter file has been saved to plot road CO1, and it's going to plot to a model called CO1 as well. If you need to know more about plotting, I have created another YouTube video on the 12D Trainer website, and it's called Plot Long Section Plotting. So have a look at that to familiarize yourself with this long section plot. So if we run this panel now, if we just plot this, it'll just go away and create a model here for long section plot. So that's done. So I'm going to load up my plot view here, and if I add on my plot model, so I've got a plot long section road CO1. So there's my two long section sheets plotted to a model, and that's working fine. So the next thing I'll do is show you how we can plot this through a chain. And again, if you're not too familiar with the plotting through the chain, I do have another YouTube video on the XDS YouTube channel, and it's called Plotting Through a Chain. And if you haven't watched that, want to familiarize yourself with that, you can go and have a look at that one. So let's have a look at a chain that I've previously created. To do that, we can go under Utilities, Chains, and Edit a chain, or another option to get to the edit chain as well for quick access is if you've got your Recalc panel open, down the bottom section here we've got Edit Chain, and let's have a look at that chain there that I've created, plotting long section. So this just one command in here which plots the long section, and there's the PPF file here that I showed you before for road CO1. So now we can plot this long section through this chain, and if we just execute that command there, you'll see the long section will disappear and just get recreated. Now to talk about the PPF files for many roads, if you've got many roads, you would generally have to create multiple PPF files here for roads, say CO1, which we've got, and then a second one for CO2, and then CO3, and so forth. And that's what generally the workflow would be, to have many plot parameter files, one for each road, which is fine. But the problem comes, I guess, if you need to edit those plot parameter files sort of halfway through a project and you've got many roads, you'll have to open up each plot parameter file and make the edits you want to edit. For instance, if you've got some utilities possibly and you want to populate your long section showing all your utilities using there's a couple of methods in there using the cuts method, then you'd have to open up each plot parameter file and add that information on, and that can be time consuming. So what I'll talk about next is how we can just have one generic plot parameter file and pass in different center lines and the model name for each center line through a parameter, and that way you can just have one plot parameter file here, just have one generic one, and that can be used to plot many long sections. And I'll just show you, I'll take you through the process for that now. So first up here, I'm just going to create that generic PPF file. I'm just going to open the previous one, and we can do that through the chain panel here. If we click on the PPF file here and come down to open, it'll open that one up, and that was the one for the CO1 that we had before. So I'm just going to come up the top here and remove the name CO1, and I'm just going to go right. So now I've got 2 in there and this generic one here. So I'm not going to put any road name in the PPF file name, that way it can be used for all the center lines. And that's all I'll do. I've saved that away, and let's just finish on that one there. So now let's do a bit of work in our chain file here. So I'm just going to copy these 2 lines here, copy and paste. So now what I'm going to put here is long section, and I'm just going to call this for road CO2, and I'm just going to put here using parameters. Yeah, just for this exercise here. So all the 2 PPF files here which I'm going to create, I'm going to use parameters. Now I'm going to come over here and I'm going to select my generic one here for long section. I'm going to use that one. If you hit the ABC button here, it updates the text there if you've copied it from a previous one. So now we've got that one in there, and I'm just going to put CO2 in the name here, so I know it's this particular one is going to be for road CO2, but it is going to use that generic one here. And that's all I need to do there. So I'm ready to start to create the parameters. So to create the parameters, we need to come up to this area here, which got the parameter value file. Just move that up there. So what I do, I normally call this the same name as my chain file name. That way they go together, and these parameters would feed into this chain. Come over here and go open, and that'll create the parameter file. It's red because it doesn't exist. We can just come down here to write, and that way now we've got a parameter value file, a PFV file in there, and this is where we can create the parameters. So this is the insert button we need to click here to create a parameter, and these are the different parameter types that we have available to us. So what I'll do, I'll open up this PPF file here just so we can explain to you the different parameters that we're going to use for this exercise here. So I've got my parameter value file. So the first parameter I'm going to select is a string parameter. So we need to pass in the string that we want to plot into this box here. So I'll come over here and I'm going to pick the string parameter. And you can see here you get the string little symbol there, little arrow, which is the same as that arrow there. So that's a string parameter. I'm going to give this a name, and I'm going to call this RS2CO2, and that's going to be the name of the parameter when we select it. You'll see that's the name we're going to select, so we know that's the string. And that's all we need there. Well, the last thing I guess we need is to pick that string. So what string do you want to use for this parameter here? And we want to pick that CO2 string here. So we can click on the little arrow there, pick on CO2, and now it's put CO2 in the value. Yep, so that's all fine. We can write that away and save that file there. So that's the first parameter that we need to put in here, and the second parameter is what do we want to call the model name, and this is the other parameter that we need to enter, and that'll be a bit of text. So if we go create a new parameter, and text is the default, then that's what we want. So we want to put some text in here, and this one I'm going to just call it a similar name to that one. Just copy that and paste that in there, and we're going to call this CO2 in there. And this one, the name I'm going to call it is, this is the plot stem, so I'm going to say plot model name, and that's going to be the name of the parameter which we're going to select. We click on there, so plot model name, and I can even put CO2 in there because it's for road CO2. So I've got string CO2 and model name CO2. And that's all we need there. Let's just write and save that file away, and let's just finish on that one. So the next step now is to substitute those two parameters we created for CO2 into the long section PPF file. I'll just show you how to do that. So we don't need this one anymore, we can close that one off, and we come down here. So if you click on the plus button, you've got a parameters area, and this is where it all happens through this area here. So what we can do, if we go into the parameters and we click on this pick parameters, so we can start to select where we want the parameters to go. So if we go pick parameters, you'll see it just opens up a blank sort of PPF file here with nothing filled out, and this is where we can start to select the two parameters. So we set a parameter in there for the string and a parameter in here for the model name. So we can just go to pick, click on pick there, and then as you move your mouse over the panel, it highlights. You get a yellow box of the area that you're going to select. So the first one I want to select is the string to profile, which is that guy, and that populates this with one line. And now what parameter do we want to use in here? So if we do a right mouse click in the parameter box here, we can select, that's the string CO2 there, and select that. That's fine. So that's done the first one, and the second one we want, if we go pick again, and we want the parameter to go into this here, which is the model name for the long section. So if we click on that box there, that's the field name for that one. If we click on here, and that's the plot model name CO2 that I've got in there. So they were the two parameters that I created, and we select that, and that's all we need for this one. We only need the two parameters. So set and finish, and here I'm just going to say use the original value and use the original value. So now under the parameters option, we've got the two parameters here, and which we selected the string name and the plot stem name. So I'm just going to write my chain now to save that away. So now if I just move that over here, and you can see here it's using that that generic one that we copied here as the PPF file name here, that one there. So if I just execute that command now, it's going away. It's plotted one page, it says. So we'll just move that over to the side. Get my plot view open here. I'll just move that over there a little bit. So take off the CO1 that we did before, and now with a bit of luck we'll have a CO2. So CO2 has been created, and there's the long section for CO2, which is fine. And I'll just show you the long section for CO2. So there's CO2. So that's the long section that's been created for CO2. Yeah, so that's how we can use a parameter to substitute the values in from here. So let's do one more example for road CO3. Let's move that over here for road CO3, which is this guy. So again, I'm just going to copy this this command here, copy and paste this down. So what I'm going to do here, I'm just going to change that bit of text here to be for road 3, and that way at least I know this one here is for road 3. And this stays the same. We're going to use the generic one here. The only thing we need to change is the parameters here. Put CO3 in there and CO3 in there. So back up to our parameter value file. Let's open that guy here. And now this is where we can populate the next two parameters for CO3. Unfortunately here you can't copy and paste similar to the chains, but I'm sure that'll probably come as the programmers work on these sort of options. So we'll just come down here, let's create a new one, and again the first one I want is a string parameter, and this one I'm going to call rs2co3 for that one there. And what string is it? And that's string CO3 there. Pick and accept that, and then that's fine. So it's created a new entry here, And again, we want another one for the model name, and I'm just going to cheat here. I'm just going to copy that from up here, come down here and paste that in there. And again, for the name, copy the previous one and put that in the name. So I'm going to change that to 3, oops, not 23, 3, and this one can be 3. Yep, so exactly the same as what we did the first time. So we've got 2 more parameters now for road CO3, and that's fine. We can just save that and replace and just finish. Now for road CO3, the one we've just copied, we just come into the parameters, and we've already selected where the 2 parameters go in the PPF file. So all we need to do is come over to the parameter here and just do a right click and say, no, this one is actually for road CO3, and this one I want the model for CO3, which is that guy there. And that's all really I need to do there. And let's save that and replace, and let's move that over here. So now if we run that option there, if we execute CO3, let's run that. It's saying it's plotting. Yep, plotted 1 page. Come down to my plot view here. So if I take off CO2 and add, now I've got CO3. And there's my long section for CO3. Again, using just that one singular generic PPF file. So you can see how great it is. You just have one PPF file and then have all your different green dots, I guess, for all your different plots, road, second road, third road, 10 roads, whatever you've got. And all you're doing is substituting the different values under the parameters here. Yeah, write that. Yeah, simple. Well, it's not simple as that, but yeah, it's fairly straightforward once you understand the process. Yeah, so that's how you can use parameters to pass values into a long section PPF file. Yeah, thanks for watching, and I hope it was useful, and you can start to use those on your projects. Alright, just bye for now.